What happens when a lifelong Republican who became one of the most vocal critics of Donald Trump sits down for a candid conversation and draws a comparison that leaves everyone in the room stunned? What happens when Ana Navarro, a woman who has spent years watching Trump's every move, finally articulates the difference between the 44th and the 45th presidents in a way that cuts through all the noise? Today, we're diving into the explosive moment when Ana Navarro destroyed Trump with one comparison to Obama, leaving the panel speechless. This isn't just another political debate. This is a story about leadership, about character, and about the moment when the contrast between two presidents became so stark that even the most ardent Trump supporters couldn't look away. Make sure to subscribe and drop a comment below because you won't believe what happened on this episode of Behind the Table. The conversation started on the Behind the Table podcast, where Ana Navarro sat down with executive producer Brian Teta for what was supposed to be a routine discussion about the week's events. But then the topic turned to Barack Obama's recent appearance on a podcast, where he made a comment that would set the internet on fire. Obama was asked how he handles the constant attacks from Trump, and he responded with a simple, devastating observation: he has a sweet in Trump's head. The remark was playful, but it was also deadly accurate. Obama's comment went viral almost immediately. People loved it. They shared it. They laughed at it. It was the kind of comment that perfectly captured the dynamic between the two men. But when Ana Navarro heard it, she didn't just laugh. She went deeper. She started talking about the difference between Obama and Trump. And that's when the comparison that left everyone speechless came out. "I think he's got like an entire building in there," Navarro said, her voice carrying the weight of someone who had been watching this dynamic for years. "I mean, you just can't help but notice that Donald Trump, anything he's talking about, he brings in Barack Hussein Obama, right? I mean, if he's talking about the reflecting pool, he somehow makes a comparison to Obama. If he's talking about Iran, he somehow makes a comparison to how bad Obama was. Obama's crowd size, Obama's this, Obama's that." The observation was devastating because it was true. Trump couldn't stop talking about Obama. He couldn't stop comparing himself to Obama. He couldn't stop trying to tear down Obama's legacy. And the reason was simple: Obama was everything Trump wasn't. Obama was respected. Obama was admired. Obama had won the Nobel Peace Prize. Obama had left office with high approval ratings. Obama had written best-selling books. Obama had built a library. Obama had done all of this without constantly attacking his predecessors. And Trump couldn't stand it. The dynamic between Trump and Obama has been a constant feature of American politics for years. It started during Trump's presidential campaign, when he questioned Obama's citizenship. It continued during Trump's presidency, when he tried to undo everything Obama had done. And it has continued even after Trump left office, as he has continued to attack Obama at every opportunity. Obama, for his part, has mostly stayed above the fray. He has criticized Trump's policies, but he has rarely engaged with Trump personally. He has let Trump's attacks slide off him. And that, more than anything else, has driven Trump crazy. Because Trump doesn't understand how anyone could ignore him. He doesn't understand how anyone could be indifferent to him. He doesn't understand that Obama doesn't need to engage with him. Obama is secure in his legacy. Trump is not. Navarro then made a point that would become the defining moment of the segment. She explained why she thinks Trump went into Iran. It wasn't about national security. It wasn't about protecting American interests. It was because he was on a sugar high from Venezuela and thought he could quickly do a regime change there, which he didn't. But I also think because he thought he could do a better job crafting a deal and negotiating a deal with the Iranians than Barack Obama did, she said. He's constantly comparing himself to him. Again, there is something there that's in his brain that's just not right. Doesn't work right. The analysis was chilling. Navarro was essentially saying that Trump's foreign policy decisions were driven not by strategic considerations, but by an obsessive need to compete with Obama. It was a claim that, if true, would be deeply disturbing. And Navarro wasn't the only one who had noticed. Sunny Hostin had made a similar point on The View a few months earlier when she said that Obama's Nobel Peace Prize lives rent-free in Trump's head. The pattern was unmistakable. Trump was obsessed with Obama. He was obsessed with being better than Obama. He was obsessed with tearing down Obama. And this obsession was affecting his decision-making. It was affecting the country. It was affecting the world. And Ana Navarro was determined to call it out. She had been watching this dynamic for years, and she had finally had enough. She was tired of the obsessive comparisons. She was tired of the constant attacks. She was tired of a president who was so consumed by his predecessor that he couldn't focus on the job at hand. But Navarro's comparison wasn't just about Trump's obsession with Obama. It was also about the fundamental difference in character between the two men. And to illustrate that difference, she told a story about something that happened during Obama's presidency, a story about the kind of president Obama was, the kind of leader he had been. She talked about a roundtable on immigration that Obama had called after being criticized by Latino leaders. They had been furious with him. They had called him the deporter-in-chief. And what did Obama do? Did he lash out? Did he attack his critics? Did he fire everyone who disagreed with him? No. He called them into the White House. He sat down with them. He listened to them. And then he did DACA, the program for the dreamers. It was the kind of thing that Donald Trump would never do. The story of Obama's immigration roundtable is one that has been told many times, but it never loses its power. Obama had been under immense pressure from Latino activists. They had been furious with him over his deportation policies. They had called him the deporter-in-chief. And they had every right to be angry. But instead of dismissing them, Obama invited them to the White House. He listened to them. He heard their concerns. And then he took action. He created DACA, the program that protected hundreds of thousands of young immigrants from deportation. It was a bold move, and it was one that Obama didn't have to make. He made it because he was a leader who listened. He made it because he was willing to change his mind. He made it because he cared about the people who were affected by his policies. He sat there, Navarro said. He sat there explaining, pushing back, but also listening. And then he changed his policy. He didn't just listen. He acted. He did something about it. That was the difference between Obama and Trump. Obama was willing to listen to people who disagreed with him. Trump wasn't. Obama was willing to change his mind. Trump wasn't. Obama was willing to put the country ahead of his ego. Trump wasn't. And that's why the comparison left everyone speechless. It wasn't just about policy. It was about character. It was about the kind of person you want leading your country. Navarro then brought up another example. She talked about George W. Bush and Donna Braziel. Braziel, who is black, had torn Bush to shreds over his administration's response to Hurricane Katrina. And what did Bush do? Did he attack her? Did he dismiss her? No. He called her into the White House and said, "Help me. Work with me." And they ended up working together on the recovery in New Orleans. And when Braziel's father died, one of the first letters she received was from George W. Bush. Can you imagine in any universe where Donald Trump would call into the White House people who criticize him? Navarro asked. It's hard to imagine. The contrast was stark. Bush had listened to his critics. Obama had listened to his critics. Trump? He fired them. He attacked them. He tried to destroy them. He surrounded himself with people who only told him what he wanted to hear. And that, Navarro was saying, was the problem. The story of George W. Bush and Donna Braziel is one that has been told many times, but it never loses its power. Braziel had been one of Bush's harshest critics. She had accused him of abandoning black people in New Orleans. And Bush, instead of attacking her, had called her into the White House. He had asked for her help. He had listened to her. And they had worked together. It was a moment of grace, a moment of bipartisanship that seems almost impossible to imagine in today's political climate. But it happened. And Navarro was using it to make a point about the kind of president Trump could never be. The discussion then turned to Trump's staff, the people who were supposed to be running the country. Navarro described a White House that was completely dysfunctional. She said that staff members were leaving Trump love notes, telling him how wonderful he is, how their entire lives revolve around him, how he means everything to them. It is the most dysfunctional thing I've ever seen for a grown-ass 80-year-old man to be, who's President of the United States for the second time, to be needing that level of constant unwavering adulation and affirmation. It was a devastating indictment of the president's character, and it was a stark reminder of the contrast between Trump and his predecessors. Obama didn't need love notes. Bush didn't need love notes. They were secure in themselves. They knew who they were. They didn't need constant validation. Trump? He craved it. The love note story was one that had been circulating in political circles for years. Staff members would leave notes for Trump, praising him, telling him how important he was. It was a symptom of a deeper problem. Trump was insecure. He needed constant reassurance. He couldn't handle criticism. He couldn't handle disagreement. And so his staff had learned to tell him what he wanted to hear. It was a recipe for disaster. It was how bad decisions were made. It was how the country was being led by a man who was more interested in his own ego than in the welfare of the American people. The conversation also touched on Obama's current life, his refusal to engage with Trump's attacks, his decision to focus on his library and his family. "I love that Obama is living his best life right now," Navarro had said on The View months earlier. "He's happy, he's making money, he's making movies, he's doing all sorts of things. But you know what? America is in danger. Our democratic values are in danger. And if we are all Americans, and we care about the democratic values that are under threat and under attack by Donald Trump, then we have a duty and a responsibility as citizens to do everything we can." But she also made it clear that Obama's silence was not a sign of weakness. It was a sign of strength. He didn't need to attack Trump. He didn't need to respond to Trump's taunts. He was above it all. And Trump couldn't stand it. Obama's decision to stay above the fray was a conscious one. He had learned from his time in office that engaging with Trump was pointless. Trump didn't care about facts. He didn't care about truth. He only cared about attention. And Obama refused to give him that attention. It was a strategy that had worked well. Obama's popularity had only grown since he left office. He was more popular than Trump. He was more respected than Trump. And he had done it by refusing to engage with Trump on Trump's terms. It was a lesson that Navarro was trying to impart to her audience. The way to beat Trump was not to engage with him. It was to ignore him. It was to focus on the issues. It was to build something better. The comparison between Obama and Trump was devastating because it was so simple. Obama was a statesman. Trump was a showman. Obama was a leader. Trump was a follower of his own ego. Obama was respected. Trump was feared. And the contrast was so stark, so undeniable, that even Navarro's co-hosts, who had heard her make similar arguments before, were left speechless. The difference between Obama and Trump was not just about policy. It was about character. It was about integrity. It was about the kind of person you want to lead your country. And Ana Navarro had just articulated that difference in a way that no one would soon forget. Navarro also touched on Trump's obsession with crowd size. It was a running joke during his presidency. Trump would constantly compare his crowd sizes to Obama's. He would claim that his inauguration had drawn the largest crowd in history. It was a lie, of course. Obama's inauguration had drawn far more people. But Trump couldn't accept that. He needed to be the best. He needed to be the biggest. He needed to be the greatest. And he was willing to lie to make that happen. It was pathetic. It was sad. It was a sign of a deeply insecure man. and Navarro was determined to call it out. The conversation also touched on the broader theme of leadership. What does it mean to be a leader? Is it about being the loudest voice in the room? Is it about being the most aggressive? Is it about being the most dominant? Or is it about something else? Is it about listening? Is it about empathy? Is it about putting the country ahead of yourself? Navarro argued that true leadership was about the latter. It was about listening to people who disagreed with you. It was about changing your mind when you were wrong. It was about putting the country ahead of your ego. And that, she said, was the difference between Obama and Trump. The podcast episode was a powerful reminder of the importance of leadership. It was a reminder that the President of the United States should be a role model. He should be someone who inspires us. He should be someone who unites us. He should be someone who makes us proud to be Americans. And Donald Trump, in Navarro's view, was none of those things. He was a divisive figure. He was a bully. He was a narcissist. And he was leading the country down a dangerous path. But Navarro also offered a message of hope. She believed that America was resilient. She believed that the country would survive Trump. She believed that the American people were better than their president. And she believed that, in the end, the truth would prevail. It was a message that resonated with her audience. It was a message that gave them hope. It was a message that reminded them that they were not alone. There were others who felt the same way. There were others who were fighting the same fight. And together, they would win. What did you think about this incredible confrontation? Was Ana Navarro right to compare Trump to Obama in this way? Is Trump really obsessed with Obama, or is it just politics? And what does it say about our country that we have a president who is so consumed by his predecessor that he can't focus on the job at hand? We want to hear your thoughts. Drop your comments below, and don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss another explosive moment from the world of entertainment. This is the kind of conversation that reminds us why we watch, why we care, and why sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is tell the truth. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.